Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to your essay writing skills class again. Today we are back with our lecture number 9 on definition essay. Remember, in your previous lecture we have thoroughly discussed how to write one descriptive essay. A descriptive essay is something and a kind of an essay in which you try to or help to define something or to help to describe something. Now, how to write a descriptive essay, that's what we have in a thorough discussion. We have defined that how to write one descriptive essay thoroughly. Then we have also discussed some steps for writing a descriptive essay. We have also decided that how to choose one topic for your descriptive essay. And yes, I remember I have given you one assignment to solve. That was your assignment number 1. You were supposed to pick up one topic from the descriptive essay list and you were supposed to write on that. Did you do your homework? I hope you are done with that, because you are all good people. I know that. Key point to consider. Then we have also talked about the do's and don'ts once you are supposed to consider or you are supposed to keep in mind while writing a descriptive essay. And then some common mistakes that we make while writing a descriptive essay that you are not supposed to do. I hope you have read all the details that we have talked about in our descriptive essay description, and you had been sticking to all the rules that I have discussed with you, and you are done with your assignment number 1. So give me your assignments and I'm going to mark them. Definitely you are going to get good scores in that, because you have been sticking to all the ground rules for writing the descriptive essay thoroughly. I hope you have enjoyed the example of going to the restaurant, Revenues, in the previous lecture. Now let's see today what we are going to talk about and what kind of the examples we see while describing the definition essay. To begin with, let's see how do you define, or how a dictionary defines a definition essay. It attempts to define a specific term. Now, a definition essay, as the words indicate, it attempts to define a specific term. Now, any term that is abstract or maybe any object that is to be defined in the definition essay, this is supposed to be our target for this essay. It could try to pin down the meaning of a specific word or define an abstract concept. So it can be a word, it can be an object, or it can be an abstract term. The examples for the definition essays are like the meaning of an abstract concept like love. Now, love is an abstract concept which cannot be defined in one way. Different people, they have different views of defining love. So this is what we are going to see, that how different definitions vary and how you are going to produce one for your own. The true meaning and importance of honesty. Honesty itself is a very abstract term. We are going to see that how you are going to define this term in different ways. Then how the meaning of family goes deeper than just your blood relatives. Now you have your sisters and brothers and your spouse, then your parents, whom you call your family. But the meaning of family, it goes deeper down into the details by you make someone your muh bola bhai or muh boli behen. So this is how the meaning of family differs from person to person, from context to context, and from situation to situation. So based on those arguments, you define your own definition of a family, honesty and love. So these are some kind of abstract terms that cannot be described in one way, so you are going to describe them in the others. So this is what we call a definition essay, which deeply looks down to define something, an object, maybe a word or any abstract term. Now, to begin with, let's try to see that how to write one definition essay. In definition essay, you explain the meaning of a certain term by giving a detailed description of it. Now, how do you give, or how do you provide or how do you explain the meaning of some word? How do you do that? By providing each or giving the detailed description of that very item. You support your definition with clear examples or facts. Now, sometimes you insert in some examples to clarify that your definition is true, and sometimes you insert in the facts, the evidences to give an idea that your definition is the best one. Such explanations are needed if a term is special, abstract, disputed, or does not have a common meaning. So you have to provide you have to support your definition with examples or facts if that does not or the term that you have used or the word that you have used is not a very special one, that's abstract concept, that's disputed, or that does not carry a common meaning. For instance, individual can interpret the definition of the words like freedom or abuse quite differently. So two individuals can look at the word love in different way, they can look at the word freedom in different way, they can look at the word abuse in different way. So it depends on the word specification. It depends on what kind of the meaning that word carries and how people explain it. For that you have to do your homework. Maybe you can talk to different people before actually describing the that very term that you want to define, or before you want to define any object or any person or any abstract concept. Now there are some steps that you are supposed to follow once you decide to write about the definition essay. Step number 1 says that choose a term that you want to define and introduce to your readers. Now the selection of the term that you want to define to your reader or define or introduce to your reader. Maybe there is some existing term that you want to define to your reader, or maybe there is a term, any new term that you want to introduce to your reader. This can be done in several ways, but your main goal at the outlet is to indicate clearly the contents of your paper. So once you have decided the term, there are many ways of writing it, but your main goal is to stick to what exactly your indication should be clearly written on the piece of paper. Now use several sources. Your step number 2 is to use several sources, dictionaries or encyclopedias, to see how the term you have chosen is usually defined. Then think of the way to combine or merge them to give your own unique definition. So your step number 1 was to choose the term that you want to define and define that in a very different way. To do that, you are supposed to conduct you are supposed to see the several sources where you can, like dictionaries or encyclopedias, where the definition of the selected term is available. Maybe you can surf on internet and try to see and try to read different articles, try to read different papers, research papers where your term has been already defined, and try to see that how this term being defined by the others mean, and then you are going to create your own definition of that very term or that very category which you want to explain or which you want to define. Your step number 3, once you have selected your term for defining, and once you have gathered some or you have consulted some sources for gathering the information, your step number 3 would be that present the term you have chosen to your reader in the introductory part of your paper. Now your best presentation of the term would happen in your introductory paragraph. Now this kind of essay is kind of different from your descriptive essay, where we write the main body first and in the end we write introduction and your conclusion. You have to introduce, or you have to explain, or you have to define the term that you have chosen for your audience in your first paragraph. This is the only possible way how you can take along, or how you can talk about your term from different angles in your supporting sentences. Your step number 4 would be that in the main body paragraphs, provide your reader with the information about the term. Now you would provide them the information of the different sources related to the term that you have picked up, and then you are going to go about it. Along with your own description, you can point out some cases in which this term is used. Now there are some words which can be used as nouns as well as verbs. So you are going to justify your term with by providing some cases in which the term have been your selected term have been used in different ways, as well as the historical information about its origins. If the term is kind of carries some background or any historical information, you are supposed to provide that in your supporting details and your main body paragraphs. the evolution of its use in literature. Maybe the term has been used in literature, so you are going to see that how the word evolved in literature. You can highlight any common mistakes in its definition. Maybe some people have defined that very definition in different ways, so you are going to critically visit their definitions of defining that term, and then you are going to give your personal feedback on them. So this is how you can divide your paragraphs accordingly, and this is how your paragraphs can be helpful and can be beneficial while you are writing about the definition essay. So your first and the main purpose was to pick up your term. Then you are supposed to gather information from different or several sources where you can find like dictionaries and encyclopedias where you can find definition of that very word, that very term, and then you are going to create your own unique definition. Well, step number 3 would be that you are going to properly introduce your term in your first paragraph, as to make sure that in your step number 4 you are going to talk about, or you are going to elaborate, or you are going to provide the information about that very term to the reader in different ways. Maybe you provide the historical background, maybe you compare that definition with the other one, maybe you pick up the definition being presented by other people, and then you critically comment on them and try to find out the common mistakes in the term's definition. So I hope you have learned the 4 steps. Now the 5th step to take is to think of a couple of good examples that will fully illustrate and explain your definition. Now you are to insert in some good examples for your term that clearly illustrate and explain your definition. Now as we are done with the steps for taking, or steps for selecting your definition essay, there is one problem with the topic selection that most of the people will come across, and you will come across too. So we are going to see that how to select one topic for your definition essay. There are plenty of terms that we use every day. Now there are so many terms, abstract terms that we use every year. Term itself is a word that is used randomly in today's lecture. So let's take the word term. Many of them are clear to almost everybody. Now if you talk to people, you would see that there are few words which we use every day, and there are few words from our language which are easily understandable, and everyone has the same understanding of them. But still there is a vast body of abstract or scientific terms that can become a topic of discussion. So the words like which are in a common use, which don't have a margin for discussion, which are easily understandable by the group of people or by the majority of people, which don't have any margin of discussion, are not the words to be selected for your topics. However, those words which you feel have different connotations, and which have different denotations, like they have different definitions from varying from person to person, you can pick up those words for your essay writing, for your definition essay writing. That they can be your abstract words, or they can be scientific words which are used in our daily life, but yet the meaning of the words vary from person to person, and the connotations of the words vary from person to person. While all of us know what is a phone, TV or dog is, concepts such as happiness, faith, love or calmness may be difficult for some people to grasp. Now we know what is a TV, we know what is a dog, we know what is a phone, but some of us may be confused between the idea of calmness. What is the actual state of calmness? How do you feel calm? What is the actual concept of faith? Different people coming from different religions will elaborate or will define this word differently. Happiness, what is the level of happiness for you? The level of happiness for me may be different from the happiness level of happiness or the state of happiness for you. So this is how the words, they vary from person to person and from situation to situation. So these kind of words which are not easily understandable by the majority of people, or which do not carry the same meaning for different people, are those terms or are those topics, can become those topics of your definition essay. Now, for your topic selection, some terms that could be chosen as a topic for your definition essay are listed below. As you can very well see, God. Now, the concept of God or the definition of God of an Indian would differ from the definition of God of a Christian, and then definition of a God for a Muslim would differ. Then love, the concept of love for individuals may differ. Hatred, beauty, morale, good and evil, what do you think is a good and what do you think is a evil, would vary from even me and you, even you and your friend, and you know, it varies from person to person. Happiness, what is the level of confidence, and what is intelligence, and so on and so forth. So these kind of topics or these kind of abstract ideas or these kind of terms can be used for your topics as your definition essay. So by the end, once we are done with our definition essay, you can pick up one topic from here, and then you can write a note on it, and you can help yourself write one essay on them. Now there are some key points to consider while we talk about the definition essay. Remember that giving a definition is not just copying what has been written in other dictionaries. Now, providing definition is not something that you copy from the dictionary or you copy from the encyclopedia. If you cannot define a brand new meaning for some concept on your own, then use the definition that already exists, but give your own interpretation of it. Now, mostly people make this common mistake that they pick up a lot of definition from different sources and then they create one essay. This is a wrong practice. What we are supposed to do is, if you cannot create one definition on your own, like picking up the information from different sources and then creating your own unique definition. If you are unable to do that, the best practice is to pick up definition from the source and then try to interpret that definition in your own words. So this can happen, or this can be the possibility if you cannot create one, or if you are not that imaginative one. I hope that you are not going to go for the second choice, because all of you are good students and you are going to see that how you can pick up one topic and you can create one definition on your own. Then second point is that choose terms that you understand. Do not go for those terms which are beyond your understanding and that you do not understand, because if you yourself won't understand that term, how are you going to help others understand it? So the best way is to pick up those terms for which are understandable for you. Do not try to define a term that you don't understand, else you will confuse yourself and your reader too. So this is how picking up any topic that is not understandable or easily understandable by yourself can be can create or can be a hazard for yourself as well as your reader, because you won't be in a position to explain that term properly to your reader. You would be confused yourself that what does that mean, and you are going to confuse the reader also. Now, another key point to remember is that you can define something by explaining its functions, structure, or its nature. Now, another best way or another key point that you can keep in mind while writing a definition essay, that you can define something by explaining its functions, structure, or its nature. You can also define the term by specifying what it does not mean. And now if that does not mean this, definitely it means this. So this is the best way of writing about that, by comparing it with the other members of the same class, emphasizing the differences. Now if you feel that the term is related to or if you compare that term with the same terms in the same category, this is going to help you differentiate that very term and define that very term from the others, and this is the best possible way of picking up the differences of that, so they will automatically become its qualities. So this is going to be the best definition or provide the best definition for your definition essay. Now follow the structure of your essay. It would be logical to present your term in the introduction. Now how are you supposed to do that? This is what you are supposed to see here. Present your term in the introduction. First of all, the term should be properly defined in your introduction. Give extended explanations in the main body paragraphs. Now provide the relevant examples or relevant supporting details in your main body paragraph, and with brief conclusions means that whatsoever you have written, you are going to create your own unique definition of the definition essay. Now that we have talked about some important things, or some important steps that you are supposed to keep in mind, and then some key points to remember, now we are to do with our do's and don'ts for writing down your definition essay. The first thing, the first do that you are supposed to do is to narrow down the term if it has an excessively wide meaning. Now if the term is a very broad one, like the word fear, as you can very well see in the example as well. Now the fear is something that is very broad. Now fear of exam, fear of God, you cannot define that term in one way. So that is a very broad term. So what you are going to do is to narrow it down to one point. Narrowing down means that you are going to bring that to one point. Either you are going to talk about the fear of exams, either you are going to talk about the fear of parents, if you are going to talk about the fear of unknown, the fear of the stage fear, and so on and so forth. So you are going to narrow it down. For instance, you might need to write many pages to define adequately the term fear. So because there are so many types of fears that you can have. Same goes with love. Love has got many kinds of loves: love for God, love for parents, love for your spouse, love for your girlfriends, love for your kids. So it has got a lot of categories to be defined. So if you take and if you narrow it down to only one type of love, that would become, and that would be very easy for you to make one specific definition for it. So we were talking about the term fear, but if you limit your topic to the panic fear, it will be much easier for you to craft your essay. So this is how, if you narrow down your information to one particular area, this is going to help you define or explain your topic or your term in the first introduction paragraph. Then you can provide some examples or some evidences in your main body, and then you can provide your personal unique definition of that very term in your conclusion. Let's move on to another do that you are supposed to do. That do look for good transitions to connect the parts of your essay together. Now these transition words are going to help connect all your thoughts, starting from your first paragraph till the last paragraph, as we do in the other essay writing or other essays as well. Do proofread your essay carefully to avoid factual mistakes. Now proofreading is very important. For proofreading, I have given you so many ideas. You can give it to others. You can give it to your best friend who is going to give you the genuine feedback. You can give it to your teacher. Even you can leave your paper on your study table, and then maybe you can sleep for a while. Maybe if you want to fresh up yourself, you can go for a walk. Once you will give some gap between what you have written on the paper, and then once you will come back and pick up your paper and read, definitely your personal proofreading is also going to help you see that if you have made any language mistakes, if you have skipped up some ideas, if you have made any punctuation errors, any grammatical mistakes, or anything that you have missed out in your essay. Do try to think of a definition that would be uniquely yours. Now you can study from several sources where you would find the definition of the term that you have selected, but do try to think of the most possible definition of your own. Don't be afraid to be creative in giving non-standard explanations. That approach should be encouraged. So you are going to, not going to be afraid of being creative and innovative once you are going to create your own definition of that term, because you are unique, and I hope and I know that you have got this spark of writing the awesome definitions for your essay. Now that we have talked about some do's of writing definition essay, now there are some don'ts that you are supposed to remember while writing your definition essays. Now the first point says that don't use the definitions like X is when and Y is where. Now these are kind of very general definitions that we come across. Every encyclopedia or every dictionary is talking about them. Try to be more scientific, try to be more creative, try to be more specific, and try to be more different to present the term that you have selected for your definition essay. Then the next point is that don't try to write a paper on a too narrow topic or a well-known obvious term. Now if everyone knows that what is a computer, so everyone knows that it's a machine which is nowadays it has become a laptop or maybe capsules or something, so you cannot, this is a very kind of a general term that everyone knows of, so there is no margin of talking on this kind of a topic and defining this topic in different ways. You have margin for describing terms which are abstract and which are scientific, which are not exactly well known to everyone, or for which people have got different perceptions and different point of views. It will be extremely hard to write an extended essay about tree or a cat. Now cat is an animal, maybe a pet, now that is very easy to explain. How does a tree look like? Everyone knows that. So these are kind of two general terms to be described and everyone knows about them, and these are not the good ideas of to be taken as a topic for your definition essay. Now, do not write in a superfluously detailed manner. Do not try to be superfluous. It means that you are not going to, cross the limits of your imagination. Your imagination has one peak, which is realistic, which is evidence-free, which is factual, and which is real. So you are not going to cross that limit. However, don't be too brief either. Now you are not going to provide so much of the imaginary details to make your definition look different. On the other hand, you are also not going to be very brief. If you are going to stand in the middle, that is the best possible way. See, if the excess of something is excess of anything is always bad, and if that thing is not available to you, that is also very bad, and that doesn't result good always. So you are going to consider the word limit of your essay before you begin writing. Now you have a set limit, or you have the set you have set up your mind that my essay should have this length in which I should explain all my ideas. That you will get to know once you are creating your outline while you are following your steps of pre-writing. Don't repeat the defined terms within the bounds of the definition itself. Now if you have taken the definition of someone else, or if you have created one, or if you have introduced one in your introductory paragraph, don't stick to only those words which have been used in your definition. No one will appreciate your prose if you write something like swine flu is a flu that people can catch from swine. So this is kind of dull and boring, and this is kind of this is not a definition that is kind of something people write without thinking that what they are writing. So keep in mind that you think twice before you create a definition for a swine flu. Now that we have discussed do's and don'ts of essay writing, definition essay writing, now we are going to see some common mistakes that people make and people can make and you can also make. So you are going to keep list down all these points one by one in your journal or in your copy, so that you are not going to make one while writing your definition essay. Trying to define a term that is too broad in scope for the essay. As we have talked earlier, that the broader terms, the terms which have the which are so broad that should be narrowed down to one particular point. So you are not going to define those terms, or you are not going to pick up those terms or decide to write on those terms which are too broad to be explained in one essay, forgetting to emphasize the term that one is defining. Now sometimes it happens that you have chosen to write about one term, and you while writing you start talking about different things related to that. Now this is a very wrong practice, because you are diverting from the main objective of your writing. In this case, it may be hard for the readers to understand what your essay is ultimately about. So if you start talking about the things associated with the term, or if you start comparing that thing with the others, instead of focusing on your term, you start talking about the other terms, that is going to divert the attention of the reader, and they are not going to get to your point, and they are going to lose their interest while writing your essay. Another common mistake we make while writing a definition essay is that sometimes people start writing about things which everyone is familiar with. You are not supposed to do that. Pick up the term or talk about those things that are well known and which do not have the conflicting interpretations. Like there are some abstract concepts which are not understandable, or people start fighting over them. So try to avoid those kind of topic, because you are not going to be the dispute maker. Now, ignoring the necessity of examples, sometimes there is a common mistake that writer they forget about inserting in the examples in their essay. No matter how detailed and clear your definition is, without concrete examples, it may be hard for your reader to understand how or when a certain term should be used. So you are going to provide the concrete, the factual examples taken from the daily life for your reader, so that they can understand that what exactly you want to talk about in your essay. Copying the existing definition word by word. Sometimes it happens with a few of the essay writers that they copy the while they are writing the definition of something, or they are trying to define something, they copy the definition of someone else, maybe taken from the dictionary, or maybe taken from the encyclopedia. That's not a very good practice. Instead, if you don't have that skill of creating your own definition, as we have already discussed earlier, what you can do is that take that definition and try to interpret that definition into different ways. Instead, try to interpret their meaning. Do not be afraid to expound your own thoughts on a new unique definition. Now what you are going to do is to pick up one definition if you are required to pick one, and if you don't know exactly what the term means, remember that you are not going to pick up those topics for your definition essay which you don't pick up those terms which are not understandable by you, because if you do that, you are going to confuse yourself as well as your reader. So if you copy the definition of someone else, try to elaborate that and try to interpret that, and in that interpretation try to create one own definition of your own. Now that we are done with all the do's and don'ts and the common mistakes, and then we have also talked about the how to select the topic for your definition essay, now let's see one example of definition essay in which we are going to define, which the writer clearly defines that what is democracy. Ready for that? Should we move on? Now pick up your pens and pick up your copies, and try to write down and try to jot down the points that how the writer tries to define the word democracy in different ways. To begin with, let's first of all see the introduction paragraph. Now remember, as I have told you in my previous lectures as well, that there are no headings for your essays. I have written one for your convenience. Now as we will move on to our next lectures, I will not write these headings, and I will ask you that what this paragraph was all about. To begin with, remember the topic of our essay or definition essay, that the term that we are going to define is democracy. Now let's see how writer writes this in his introduction paragraph. Turn on your TV and switch to a news channel. Take a pencil and a sheet of paper and prepare to take notes. Your aim is to count the use of one of the most popular words in the modern world. This word is democracy. I bet that you will hear it at least 5 to 6 times within an hour. The word democratic has also become a synonym to such adjectives as good, fair, or equal. Politicians of all countries use it to evaluate the domestic and foreign policies of their neighbors, opponents, and allies. Simultaneously, it is obvious that in many cases this word is misunderstood as well as used for various kinds of manipulations. Now see that how beautifully the writer floats down the topic for their audience, how easily he tells them that what they are going to talk about in this essay, democracy. Now how he has taken this word and how he has told that how this word is being used nowadays in our society as a good, fair, or equal synonym, and sometimes the word is being misunderstood and is being manipulated by certain politicians in our society. So what is democracy? Why has it become the cornerstone of the modern civilization? This is what the writer gives you two full-fledged questions to see that how the thoughts can move on and how he is going to take his thoughts further towards his essay. Now let's try to see the supporting details that he provides to see or define the word democracy. Democracy can be understood as a process of people governing their state and managing community affairs altogether based on consensus. Through democracy, though democracy is often defined as a form of government, to my mind it's more reasonable to contemplate it as a process, a constant opportunity by which citizens may bring changes into their social and political lives. Now the writer understands the word as he also uses the word to my mind. Now this personal affiliation to this description that he is defining gives us this impression that thoughts that he is writing here are wholly solely his own. Now these kind of words can be used in definition essay as to make your thoughts personal ones. Now he defines democracy as a form of a government. More reasonable to contemplate it as a process, a constant opportunity by which the citizens may bring changes into their social and political life. Now this is kind of a form of a government that people can take along and people can carry. To his mind, democracy can be understood by a process of people governing their state. Now this is how the writer defines democracy in his first, right after his first paragraph, that was his introduction paragraph. He is providing in supporting details the definition of how he defines democracy as a process of people governing their own state. Now he is, in the second paragraph, he's trying to bring, or he's trying to talk about different examples being taken from history, and maybe he has taken these examples from encyclopedias or dictionaries. The origin of democracy lie in ancient Greece. Now he must have taken this information from any encyclopedia that he is trying to write down in his own words. This term was constructed from two Greek words, demos meaning people and kratos which means power. So this is how he defines word taken from the encyclopedia. A long time ago, Greek men used to gather on the town square to make decisions about urgent political issues. Now this is the government that is being people have got the power of governing their own state. Greek democracy was direct. Now the concept was being taken from the Greek democracy, not only in the sense that citizens could vote for decisions personally, but also in the sense that they could control the political process and the authorities. So people had every right of controlling their government, their state, their political processes and their authorities. It must be pointed out that back then no one not everyone could take part in voting. This privilege was only available to male citizens. Now see that the concept of democracy is coming from Greece, where not everyone was, in the past times, not everyone was to take part in the voting. Only the male citizens of the society were given this opportunity. Females and the slaves and the ancient Greek was a slavery state, and women couldn't affect the social and political life. So the concept of democracy is coming from Greece, which minuses the slaves and the women, and the only authority of voting and making the state lies with the men only. So this is how the point of view of the writer comes out, that how he wants to take up his ideas, that if the democracy means that the people governing their own state, that people, the idea behind and the roots of democracy, which was first introduced in Greece, comes from the male citizens and slaves, and the women are minused from, or they are being excluded from this voting. Along with the population's growth and the compilation of the political processes, it had become almost impossible to conduct direct democracy. Now he talks about that today, as the population is growing and the compilation of the political processes, now it has become almost impossible to conduct direct democracy. This had led to a representative democracy, the model which is used all over the world today. Now this model of democracy, now let's see how he tries to define that. It may be constitutional, parliamentary, or presidential. Now see that how he has related the term democracy with constitution, parliament, and presidency. The main common feature is that people affect political life through the representative they have chosen through elections. Now the only difference between them is that people earlier who were voting for their government, and they were setting up their own laws for their government. Now they vote for a person who is responsible for or who is the representative of their political life. Now his fourth paragraph also supports his supporting details, as the idea or the concept or the term that he has taken is very broad. So he is trying to narrow it down to democracy, and trying to define and attach the word democracy to different categories. Modern democracy implies many privileges that ancient Greeks didn't know. Now modern democracy is somewhat different from what Greek people were about to say, or what Greek people had to say. For example, people now can vote regardless of their gender, skin color, social status, and financial position. So not only elites or not only men are going to vote for their government, women can also be there, slaves can also be there. There is no social status, lower class, upper class, middle class. Everyone can vote for the selection of their representative from the society. Democracy is considered to be the optimal way to run the state. Now this is the only possible way, or it is considered to be the optimal way. However, many critics talk about the democratic tyranny and even the injustice of this form of government. Now many critics, they they are not in a favor of this kind of a government, or this kind of rule of the government. Imagine that on presidential elections, 49% of electorate vote for one candidate and 51 vote for the other. Now this is one example, and the common life example that the writer has given. The second candidate wins the elections, but what about those people whose interests are subjected to will of the majority? Now see that what about those 49% of the people who wanted to make the other candidate the president or the representative of the society? Then where will their all dreams go, and how they are going to see this government, and how they are going to go with that government with the passage of time? See the selection of the ideas that the writer uses to express the word democracy and how it is useful or it is not useful, that becomes very clear in our mind now. Now he is concluding his essay by saying that democracy is a complicated and versatile phenomenon that can be studied from different approaches. Now democracy is he says that as the concept of democracy in Greece has now changed in modern world, it is kind of complicated and versatile phenomena that can change from situation to situation, that can be studied from different approaches. However, as Sir Winston Churchill had said once, now he concludes his essay by quoting one definition being presented by one of the very famous person. Democracy is the worst form of government except for all those others that have been tried. So Sir Churchill, he defines democracy is the worst form of the government, as maybe it is, and I hope that the writer of this essay helps you to define democracy as the worst state of government by providing all those possible examples and the concrete examples which are there in our society, like the way he has been talking about those that percentage of 49 people who did not want that candidate to be the representative of the society for the next 5 years. Now what will happen to those 49% of the people for next 5 years, and who is going to take care of them? This is how democracy has been defined as the worst state of government except for all those others that have been tried ever in the life. So this is how the writer helps us define democracy in a very smart way. So that was one example of that what is democracy while we are talking about the definition essay. I hope you have understood that how are you supposed to define one. You are supposed to clearly introduce your term in your introduction. Then you are supposed to clearly provide all those evidences and all those concrete examples in your supporting details which allow a room for defining your term in different ways, and then in the conclusion you are supposed to give one solid definition that is maybe yours own, or maybe that is the gist of, maybe you have taken as the writer of the essay Democracy has taken one example of Sir Churchill and written it as an idea of his own. Now that today we have talked about the definition essay, that how to write one that clearly will define any abstract idea or any scientific term in your own words, and you are going to provide the best definition for this definition essay. You have learned that how to write a definition essay. There are some do's and don'ts that you are supposed to do and you are not supposed to do. Then there are some steps that we have learned that how to write a definition essay in which you are supposed to float your or introduce your term in your introduction paragraph. Then in your main body you are supposed to provide the proper details and proper supporting arguments and proper examples of how do you define your term, and in your conclusion you are going to make sure that you provide one unique definitions of your own of the term that you have selected for your essay. Then key points are to be considered. Then there are some key points that we have discussed, some common mistakes that we make while writing a definition essay, and I have also shared one example of writing what is of a definition essay, that is what is democracy, and I hope you have learned through this example. Definition essay is not a very difficult job to write. All the essays there are not difficult to write. The only thumb rule is to stick to all the writing processes, all the outlining, all the things that we have discussed in the previous lecture. If you stick to the pre-writing technique of making an outline of your essay, and then by the use of that very outline, that which sources you are supposed to consult and which sources you are going to visit for gathering the information for your definition essay, and then you are going to make your draft. That is really going to be very, very helpful for you. Another thumb rule to remember is that you are not going to forget that you are going to, if you cannot provide your own unique definition of essay on your own, you are not going to, pick up the definition of someone as it is. You are going to critically interpret that and try to, explain that in your own words. Do not pick up very broad categories or very broad topics or very broad terms that cannot be explained within one essay. Try to narrow them down and try to make your own definition essay. These are some references where these slides have been taken from and where the essay sample was, the democracy sample was taken from. I hope you are enjoying the essay writing skills and presentation skills course. This essay writing and presentation skills course has been specially designed to make your productive skills better, your output skills better. Now we communicate in society through our writing skills and through our presentation. Now as we will move on, we will make sure that you are going to make yourself good essay writers, because writing is something, wherever you go, whatever field you choose, you would be asked to write something, maybe write a letter, maybe write a paper, maybe you in the future you become a good researcher. So the tactics of writing an essay. These writing processes and these writing techniques are going to be very, very useful if you want to become one good writer. And of course, in the upcoming lectures we are definitely going to talk about some presentation skills. We are going to see that how to present in front of the audience and how to do that, because presentation skills is something in which you provide your best possible personality, and you represent your company on the behalf of you are being representing your company. So make sure that you do it in a very best possible way, and we are going to learn some techniques and rules of doing that. So I hope that this course is going to be very, very beneficial for your future. Either you want to become a writer or you want to become a good presenter. Both of these categories are required in our daily life. So this course is going to be very, very beneficial for you. For today, that was all. We have thoroughly discussed definition essay. In the next lecture, we will again come back with another common type of essay, and we are going to thoroughly discuss that. Until then, take very good care of yourself. I hope you are enjoying the course. I am Anila Noshin signing off from here. Till the next time, I will see you in the next class. Till then, Allah Hafiz.